Welcome back, everyone. We have got a great guest joining us once again. Today, we are joined by Zach Wright, the co-founder of Syft AI. Zach, welcome to the show.
Oliver, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Would you mind just kicking us off, telling everybody a little bit about yourself and what you guys are building over at Syft AI?
Yeah, I'm Zach Wright. I'm the co-founder and sales leader at Syft AI. And I'm also a second-time dad now. I've got two boys. I got a 2.5-year-old and a 3-month-old. So it's been fun kind of co-founding a software company and having kids at the same time. It's like I'm doing all the life's events at once. It's been wild. So that's kind of it on a personal side. From a professional side, I like a career salesperson. I rose through the ranks at Oracle and Informatica and went back to Oracle. Like 13 years of outbound sales experience, but about 4 years ago, jumped off to co-found Syft AI, which is an outbound sales application. It's an AI sales application. We train our models on what you solve for. We point at your ICP, and then we give you reasons to engage a specific account. So alternative to spray and pray, and you think of like the mass volume outreach that many people do, and now AI has kind of destroyed, is instead identifying companies that have an active reason for you to engage, but they might not be a prioritized an account or may not even be in your CRM. So we are kind of finding those next deals that you should be talking to, but maybe you're not because you didn't even know about them or they're a deprioritized account. So trying to cure like the best things about outbound sales and replicate that with AI.
Yeah, nice. Love to hear it. And congrats on being a two-time father. I think that's the biggest achievement. So you're checking a lot of life boxes, as you said.
Yeah.
Being with Syft, being in the outbound space, obviously you mentioned AI there. A big trend we've seen on our side, we obviously operate in the marketing space, go-to-market space on outbound and inbound. But when you're doing your side of outbound, you're recommending things to clients. What's kind of the biggest differentiation when using Syft about personalization, but then quote unquote, actually useful personalization?
Yeah. Well, first I would say let's first talk about differentiation from like how we're doing it. You think about most AI sales tech or even like an LLM, like you think of Perplexity. Like you go and ask Perplexity, tell me everything I want to know as a salesperson about Nike. And it's like really good if I ask it a question, it gives a thoughtful answer. That's been the case with a majority of go-to-market tech, right? But I don't want to ask AI a question, it gives me an answer. I want it to bring me the answer before I even know what to ask for. Right. So you think of from an outbound perspective, I want you to recommend me accounts that have an active reason or an active project that I could go in and help solve, regardless if I know the name of the account. Right. I think that's kind of been the challenge with and the lack of adoption of sales tech is it's like, all right, well, if you already know about the account, like I'm sure you can find things about them, but it's not going to be like a groundbreaking revelation versus like, hey, show me an account that's actively evaluating what we solve for. And hey, this isn't even in our CRM. This happens all the time during our demos. Like all of our custom demos, we do that. And we'll hear like screenshots of like things that we're demoing because like the account isn't even on their radar. Right. So that's like first the differentiation. Then what we're doing is you think of like AI SDR took like fire over the last couple of years. I'd say it like didn't really pan out the way everyone thought. And you kind of wonder why. Well, a lot of these companies, what they're doing is replicating kind of the worst behavior of sales, which is I'm going to shout my message far and wide. Everyone's going to hear the same thing. AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't sleep. But if we burn our TAM and we reach out to everybody, sure, you might get a lot of meetings early because you played the numbers game, but you did burn your TAM and maybe deliverability, and maybe you missed out on some opportunities because you didn't sound unique with a perspective. So our uniqueness, and you asked about personalization, we're taking observations that we found and then building messaging for the seller that doesn't sound like AI, right? Like you think of all of the, hey, I hope you're doing well. I saw you visit our website, pitch my product, right? And like that's not differentiated. It sounds like AI, it's terrible. But ours is instead, hey, I saw this, and like quotes a job post or a news article or whatever. And that comes with this challenge. And then pulling from their value props, here's how we solve it. And then here's who we've solved it with. So we've actually had customers plug our output emails into like an AI spam detector, and it's like 0% human written versus like you look at Zoom Info and the one that they have on their website, you could put it into an AI spam detector and it's like 99% written by AI. It's like the future, these spam detectors will know and it will send it to spam. So it's like outbound personalization is more than just, hey, I saw you also went to Ohio State, right?
Mhm.
Like that's disingenuous. It's not real. Like there's nothing, like you could have said nothing and it would have been better. But real personalization is like, hey, saw you're working on this project and that comes with this challenge and here's how we solve it. Okay, now you're talking something, right? Like there's a perspective, I have a thought, I could potentially help you here. So you can drastically tell the difference between the two when you see it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I like the sound of that, and it's getting worse and worse on the AI spam side. I think you're right. It's, "Hey, I saw you went to this college, saw you're from this city." Somebody was like, I got a message, "Hey, I was in Cleveland last week. It's a great city."
Yeah.
It's like, "You've never been to Cleveland." I looked them up, and you get 2 or 3 of those a day, and then it just becomes even more repellent to responses, especially at scale. And from your perspective operating in the space, what do you think most founders and revenue leaders still misunderstand about outbound in general?
Well, I think like it's the best thing our sellers can do is be problem solvers, right? Which is identifying companies that need your product and then translating observations to what is our value prop and who have we won that with. When I was a sales leader, the first thing I would tell our new sellers is like pick like 5 stories off the website, like win stories, memorize them, practice them in the mirror. And like your first 3 months, just like try to fit in the right win story into the conversation and then just shut up and let them talk, right? But like if we can be really good at finding problems and Syft is really good at identifying those problems, now our sellers are it's a use case driven sales cycle. And what does that do downstream? You're more likely to win the deal if there's use case. You're going to grow the deal. It's going to be a shorter sales cycle and they're more likely to renew the next year, right? And then more likely to use that story and sell more deals. So it's like, okay, well, we need to stop thinking about how we can get more pipeline by linearly hiring people and how can we use AI to make the team that we have much more effective, right? So instead of X, like each person gets X amount of pipeline, well, that's thinking kind of like the old way of thinking. But if I can use AI to instead identify all the opportunities and now we have a ton more opportunities, now my sellers can focus on building their perspective and running a sales cycle and closing the business. I think that's much more valuable than having a bunch of really high salaried salespeople become researchers, right? Like my salespeople should not be data analysts. They should be salespeople.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think with the technology that's out right now, it's more than possible to run lean on the sales side. And when did you first get into sales? How long have you been in the space?
2013, I started as an intern at Oracle between my junior and senior year of college. It was funny, like my dad worked at Oracle in the 90s. So I had some, I guess, connections there and got an internship. Was one of 9 interns hired full time. So I actually had an offer at the end of my internship. So my senior year was really relaxed. It was great to already know where I was going. And then I quickly went from SDR to a SMB AE. And it's funny, my like one of my highest earning years was like first year as an AE. I went like 800% because back in the Oracle cloud days, you got 5x multipliers on selling the cloud because it was like a brand new concept. But yeah, then moved into the field at a competitor called Informatica and then went back during COVID as a regional sales director leading a team across the nation. So that was my first sales leadership role was during COVID, which you could imagine had its own challenges. But yeah, it's been a cool ride.
Yeah, sounds like it. And when you first got started as an intern, flash forward 13 years later to 2026 in a founding position, what do you think are kind of the key differences when it comes to actually selling solutions? Not necessarily in terms of the tech you can leverage, but how are prospects looking at things? How are you going about educating prospects and breaking through the noise?
Yeah, well, I think in 2013 you'd hear things like luck finds those who work the hardest and turn over every rock. It's a numbers game and go into that office and don't come out until you have a meeting, right? Like it was all about like smile and dial and all of these like quantity game. Like I instead now, if we know who has the problem that we can solve by looking at very intelligent sources like a job post, people hire people to solve a problem and they'll gush about their problems in their job posts. But like back then, I didn't have the opportunity to read every prospect's job post, right? Well, now with AI, I can pull out what matters. And I can say, hey, saw you guys are going through a cloud migration and moving from on-prem to AWS. And that typically comes with these challenges. Here's what we've done to solve that, right? Like now I'm taking an observation of something I know that they have, and now I'm positioning a perspective. In today's world, I can use AI to give me my time back so that I can spend my time creating a perspective and value selling versus spending all of my time trying to hunt it down. It's much more of a, how can I think way harder about what perspective could I position this customer, and then spend even more time being thoughtful in my outreach. Like now you can do video outreach and send them a thoughtful message because you heard them on a podcast or whatever it might be, versus like I'm reading job posts and 10Ks all day. Well, now AI can do that.
There's 100% a right way to do AI powered prospecting and 100% a wrong way to do AI powered prospecting. And obviously Syft comes into the space and solves a good portion of that problem. But what are some of the common mistakes you see companies make when they're doing quote unquote powered prospecting, that whether you solve it or maybe you don't even solve it, but you just see it as a recurring theme that some of your users have?
I would say there's some where it's like, I'm just going to let an AI SDR run and then it's going to create tasks for my humans to pick up. You can imagine what, like I even talked to a prospect who ultimately lost his job because they spent like 7 figures into this project and it didn't work out. But he was explaining why it didn't work out. He was like, hey, we had AI SDR spam the entire world, and that created follow-up tasks for our humans to kind of follow up on. And you could imagine as a sales rep, you turn on your profile and it's like, you have 9,000 tasks in your queue. And the sales rep's like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, there are other ways of using AI, like, and not just in outbound, but like I've seen some really incredible stuff with like note taking and call recording and sales coaching and role plays. So I'd say there's a lot of different functions where it's making the seller better and it's putting the seller in the right place. I think when you try to replace the seller but don't really understand the job to be done, that's when it's been kind of really not going well.
And as obviously don't share your secret sauce, Zach, but as you're kind of explaining and educating your solution to prospective users, how are you doing that, kind of positioning yourself? Because in this space, in the AI go-to-market space, we'll call it, there's a lot of companies that are promising unicorns and delivering donkeys, so to say. So how are you going about kind of separating yourself from the AI SDR boom, it necessarily paying out the way people wanted it to, but how are you going about kind of differentiating yourself?
I think why, like understanding the why now and timeliness of, if your AI can't tell you why you're reaching out to an account, you probably shouldn't be reaching out to an account. But on the flip side, if your AI understands everything about your company, from your value props to your win stories to the signals that are making a really good prospect, now your AI really contextual, like the context very much matters. And like, just because I can talk to everybody doesn't mean I should talk to everybody. With Syft, it's more of a targeted approach of, hey, and we sell down market, right? Like SMB and mid-market SaaS. So they might not have the luxury of throwing thousands of bodies at the problem like an Oracle or an AWS, right? So they need their sellers when they're prospecting. They need to be in the right conversations and give themselves a better chance to close. Because if they're playing the same playbook as like a Microsoft, well, Microsoft's going to drown it in bodies and they're going to get the job done much better than you. But if you're approaching it a little bit more targeted, you're certainly going to be in the right space.
It just comes down to kind of strategy and game plan at the end of the day.
Yeah. I would say one of our main differentiators is more around like, and we call it discover, but it's essentially outside of the named accounts that you know about, who are companies that are also a value match, which is a term that we use as like, hey, this is a company evaluating for what you solve for. One of our customers is Workday. And most recently, they had an account right before the end of the fiscal year. They were the VP got a value match and he forwarded it to the rep and copied us. And he had said, hey, did you see this company's back at the table? Apparently they had lost the deal the year before to no decision. So then they saw that that company was hiring a contractor to help kind of go through this HR transformation. They were 10 days after Syft's value match alert. They already knew who to talk to. They got the verbal 10 days after that value match alert and were redlining and closed it in time for their fiscal year end, and the quote from the rep was, we never would have known that they were back at the table without Syft. We had deprioritized this account as one that we shouldn't even bother, right? But it's funny, like that's why companies in the old world, they would just shuffle territories every year so that like someone else takes a crack at it. But like we don't have to like try to stumble upon it by chance. We can know going in.
That's a great success story. And over the past kind of few years, you guys have obviously grown very well, stack stories like that. Looking forward, Zach, what's the big goals for Syft? Where are you guys trying to get to?
Yeah, it's funny, we've stayed lean. Like in our early days of Syft, it was all about like, man, one day we're going to be this like 50-person company and it's going to be about how much money we raised. We've actually completely changed that focus. And it's like, hey, we're a 3-person company and we're focused on how profitable can we get and how many customers can we change their story, right? Like some win stories on our website where it's like, hey, Syft has changed the way we outbound. So like how many of those can we collect? But if we just keep focusing on this value matching engine and double down on with like more data sources and just become better at, like, you could never be omniscient, but how close can we get to omniscient on what are the opportunities out there of companies you should be targeting, but maybe you don't know about, right? So that's kind of our entire focus is, I know omniscience is impossible, but like it's a great goal to chase.
Finding the sleepers. Zach, I'm excited for you guys. Over the past few years, you've carved a great path. Looking back on just your journey, whether it be as a entrepreneur or just being in sales in general, there was one lesson you wish you learned a little earlier. What would that one lesson be?
I think this is for like the entrepreneurs, I guess, out there. Everyone's like the days of I'm going to go and I'm going to focus all the co-founders' energy on raising money and trying to get that big first seed round or whatever pre-product, pre-revenue. I think is a foolish direction. I think taking on, like, getting to a point where you first understand the job to be done, have a career before becoming an entrepreneur and become an expert in that field, but then bootstrap as long as you can, bootstrap it and find product market fit and build to profitability. Because when you just raise right off the bat, you're going to waste a ton of time. You're going to get a lot of people interested, but show me the traction. You're going to have a lot of people say, hey, this is great, blah, 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 but like you're first time founders. So like I would instead just focus on stacking win stories. And when that happens and you've got social proof that what you're doing is fundamentally different than what everyone else is doing, you're having your customers say, we'll never have an outbound process without Syft again. Like those types of moments, now you can go and raise if you want to, but more focus on profitability.
That's what we love to hear. Profitable companies change the world.
Yeah. Well, it certainly puts you in the driver's seat when you do want to go and raise that money. You're not coming from desperation, but more a seat of power. So that's good.
Awesome. I'm happy for you guys. You guys have made a lot of progress since way back when you first started in sales to today. And then obviously since you guys founded Syft, it's been a really interesting journey to follow. And Zach, I appreciate you taking the time, coming on, sharing some insights with the audience.
Thanks, Oliver.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll be sure to link your website, your LinkedIn down in the description. But if you want to shout it out now, more than welcome to do so.
Yeah. Our website is siftai.com. We've just rolled out a new website today. We've got a pretty cool experience when you go. The hero image is actually like you can click a simulation and you'll kind of see how we're doing it. In the future, you'll actually be able to put in your own website and we will show value matches for that company and kind of implement Syft on the fly. So you're seeing some of these cool AI companies show value right away when you're kind of like AI native, these types of things are possible. So I'd say check out our website at siftai.com and feel free to connect with me at Zach Wright Syft is always my like LinkedIn /.
I'll be sure to tag all of that down in the description below, and I definitely recommend playing around on Syft's website. I've played with it. It's a cool simulation, so can't recommend it enough. For everybody listening, if you've listened to us ramble this long, we appreciate it. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.